In today's video, you will be able to know why this abnormality occurs, and this abnormality is known as cleft lip. Cleft lip. So first of all, that we are going to discuss about development of various parts of face. But before discussing this, stomatodium, frontonasal process, maxillary and mandibular processes of mandibular arch, nasal placoids, lens placoids, nasal pits, medial and lateral nasal processes. Basically all these structures, they are important for development of various parts of face. So first of all, let's discuss about the lower lip development. So here you can see here that these are the two mandibular processes of the mandibular arch. Now here you can see here that these two mandibular processes of the mandibular arch, so here do the fusion, and here you can see here that as a result of the fusion of these two mandibular arches, so here basically lower lip form. So therefore I have written that due to the fusion or joining of the two mandibular processes, lower lip develop, and this leads to the formation of the lower lip. Now as you know that this stomatodium is the future mouth, and here if this is the future mouth, then this lower lip also does the formation of the lower portion of the mouth, or it causes the formation of the lower jaw. So therefore basically I have written that since stomatodium is the future mouth, so therefore lower lip forms the lower margin of the stomatodium or the lower lip, so here does the formation of the lower jaw. So therefore basically the main concept is that, so here lower lip development occurs due to the fusion of the, so here two mandibular processes. So here this is the key point. So let's discuss about the upper lip development. So here that, so this is a condition before the upper lip development. So this is the, so here you can see lateral nasal process, lateral nasal process, medial nasal process. This is the frontonasal process, and this is maxillary process. Now here that slowly you can see here that this maxillary process, so here is doing fusion with this lateral and medial nasal processes. So therefore that I have written that fusion of maxillary process with lateral and medial nasal processes done. Now here again, but here you can see here that initially that these two, so here these two nasal processes, so here don't fuse with each other, so therefore that there was a gap. But now here you can see here that these two medial and lateral nasal processes undergo fusion. As a result that there is no space. Now here you can see that initially that this lateral and medial nasal processes don't do fusion, so therefore that this a nasal pit was a part of the stomatodium, and also before the, so here fusion of this maxillary process with the nasal processes, that this nasal pit connected with the stomatodium, that this is the stomatodium. But here you can see here that after the fusion of this maxillary process with this nasal processes, that this, so here connection of this nasal pit with the stomatodium is not there, so it is absent. So this is the main reason. So therefore that I written that fusion of medial and lateral nasal processes also occur. So therefore you can see here that finally due to fusion of maxillary process with nasal processes, so here that this maxillary process, so here does its fusion with these two lateral and medial nasal processes, and here that these two lateral and medial nasal processes undergo fusion, and finally due to all this fusion, so here nasal pits get separated from stomatodium. Now when these nasal pits get separated from stomatodium, these are known as external nares, and finally due to the fusion of this maxillary process and also with the nasal processes with each other, basically external nares form. And also basically one thing you can notice that, so here initially that this frontonasal process was very wide, but now that this frontonasal process has become narrowed. So these are the two key points basically. So here that this normal or complete upper lip formation occurs after the formation of external layers, and also narrowing of the frontonasal process. So now basically that is upper lip development also done. So here basically the key points. So here basically the formation of external layers and also narrowing of frontonasal process, and this narrowing of frontonasal process, so here basically forms the median part of upper lip, which is also known as philtrum, and this lateral part of upper lip is formed by this maxillary process. So here I have written that, so here median part of upper lip, which is also known as philtrum, is formed from frontonasal process due to narrowing of frontonasal process, and this lateral part of lower lip also formed from maxillary process due to the fusion of maxillary process with nasal processes. So now I want to do the development of cheek. So here basically you can see here that this so before the cheek development, there is maxillary and mandibular processes that they don't do fusion, but here that slowly as the fusion between this maxillary and nasal processes occurring, and finally after the complete fusion of both these processes, cheek formation occurs. So therefore that I have written that due to the fusion of maxillary and mandibular processes, the cheek development or formation done. So here basically the development has been done, and this is the upper part of the cheek and this is the lower part. Upper part of cheek formed from this maxillary process, and this lower part formed from this mandibular process. That's all about the cheek development. So now I want to give information about a nose development. So the first of all, again beginning is from the formation of external layers, and this external layers, so here same as the formation of external layers during the upper lip development. So here simply so first of all, the fusion of this maxillary process with these two nasal processes, and finally that the fusion of these two nasal processes leads to the separation of this nasal pit from the stomatodium, and then finally this nasal pits get converted to external layers. And so first of all, it begins with the formation of external layers. Now here also similar things. So this is a frontonasal process. So here you can see that earlier these two external layers were apart from each other, so due to the widening of the frontonasal process, but as the narrowing of frontonasal process occurs, so here internal part of nose, basically nasal septum of nose developed. So therefore that I have written there due to the approximation of external layers, the frontonasal process becomes narrow, and the narrowing of frontonasal process leads to the formation of nasal septum. Now the third is about the prominence of nose. So here prominence of nose is simple, it is like it, but the importance why? Now why is it important? So here you can see here that this is the condition with no nasal prominence, and this is the condition with nasal prominence. So here you can see here that due to nasal prominence, that is external layer, so here open in ventral aspect, but here that, but in normally that in our nose, that is external layers don't open ventrally, they open downwardly because of presence of nasal prominence. So here this is our nose of a normal human view. So that's the reason. So the importance is that due to nasal prominence, the external layers, so here open in the downward direction. Now here that so all the internal parts develop, but here some external parts of nose like bridge of the nose, ala of nose, and dorsum and tip of the nose. That this bridge of nose develops from this frontonasal process, and this ala of nose develops from this lateral nasal process, and this dorsum of nose and tip of nose develop from this medial nasal process. Now here simultaneously during the development of nose, also forehead development also occurs. Now friends, as you can see here that as the cheek development occurs, so here nose development occurs. So here basically that these lens placoids, So here they are shifted from this ventrolateral position. They are shifted from this ventrolateral position to the, so here slowly to the ventral position, and later that this lens placoid so here become eye. So therefore that I written that during the development of upper lip, lower lip, nose, and the lens placoid shifted from ventrolateral position to ventral position, and then these lens placoids become eye later, and in this way eye development occurs. So that's all about the face development. So here you can see that this lower lip development, first of all that I discussed about a lower lip development, it is developed from the, so here basically a fusion of two mandibular processes. So because of mandibular process, and then I discussed you about the upper lip development, then I discussed you about the development of cheek, and then nose development, and then finally eye development, and all these things. So here shown in this diagram you can see. So here that first of all that this is the lower jaw and lower lip, they are developed from this mandibular process. Now here this is the lateral part of upper lip, and this is the upper part of cheek developed from maxillary process. Now here that this is the ala of nose developed from lateral nasal process, and this is a dorsum of nose and tip of nose developed from this medial nasal process. Now here that this is the forehead, and this is the philtrum of nose, that this is a philtrum of upper lip, and this is the forehead, and here also inside this nasal septum lie, and this forehead develops from a frontonasal process, and this philtrum develops from this frontonasal process. That's all about the development of face. Now I want to discuss you about the case of cleft lip. Spelling this, cleft lip. So this is the case. So now as I already, so first of all that you can see here that in this case that these external layers, they are connected to the mouth. Now why this happens? But normally as we can see that in our normal mouth or here a normal face, there is no connection between these external layers and the mouth. But here in this case this happens. Why? Because that this fusion of, so here maxillary process with this medial and lateral nasal processes doesn't occur. As a result that if this fusion does not occur, so therefore and if this fusion doesn't occur, that this nasal pits so here don't get separated from future mouth. So therefore that this due to the failure of the, so here fusion of maxillary process, due to the failure of the fusion of maxillary process with medial and lateral nasal processes, that there is cleft lip, basically connection between these external layers and this mouth. So friends, so this is known as cleft lip, and here I written a cleft lip. So here connection of external layers or nasal pits with mouth, and here cause basically failure of fusion of maxillary process with nasal processes. But normally for the normal mouth formation, that is maxillary process, so here does fusion with these nasal processes. As a result that in our normal face that there is no connection between these external layers with this mouth. But here that due to the failure of this fusion process there is a connection. That's all about the cleft lip. I hope that this video helps you a lot. So please stay tuned.